Hey, how's it going, guys? Sorry, I'm a little here today, so I appreciate your patience in advance. I'm Kellen Goff. I voice in Five Nights at Freddy's, My Hero Academia, and a few other things. And I'm very excited to be here in Lodi. And this guy to my right is way more important.
No. How many people seen Midnight at Freddy's? The recent, what's that? And we watched. What was it? The movie. We watched it recently. Based on it was a what's his name? Nick Cage. Nick. So they kind of did it. Did everybody ever seen? Did you ever see that?
Something's playtime.
Yeah. Willie's one. We just watched that last weekend. Yeah. It was so weird. But and then I saw the trailer for the new movie coming out, which is pretty cool. Yeah, looking forward to that. Yeah, really?
They offered me a role in the Nick Cage one, but I was like conflict of interest probably.
Oh, that would have been awesome. Yeah. So I'm David Kaye. My career started in roughly around late '80s with G.I. Joe, General Hawk, the Great American Hero. And then when I became an American citizen in 2013, I left the LA Convention Center. I said, now I can say it. And then Transformers happened, Beast Wars in '94, Megatron, a bunch of cartoons, and animated happened. I get to play Optimus, play the good guy. Every time I see Peter Cullen, I always feel guilty.
He's getting a new toy.
Yeah, he is, yeah. I'm animated, so I'm getting a new toy. And still, after all these years, we're getting new toys. And of course, Sashomaru from Inuyasha, and Shihime, and what is it, Rikum, and Rise of Doom, and a bunch of, Come by the table. I can't remember, but...
You were in an MCU movie.
Yeah, oh yes, right, the MCU, Erisham. I'll return for judgment, Hopefully I will return for judgment. Well, we'll have to see. But that's me, Kellen.
Yeah.
David, you brought it up that you came from here from Canada.
Mm-hmm.
What was the voice work like in Canada versus coming to the States?
Well, I started in radio there, and all my heroes, were people who were on. I used to listen to radio stations in Boston and Chicago, and I was just a big fan, and I was a big fan of shows and comics. And I'll tell you, one of the things, if you remember the older folks in the crowd, comic books, in the back of the comic books, there were some advertisements of you could order like a 9-foot-tall Frankenstein, whoopee cushions and all the weird stuff you get. And I was so mad because it always said U.S. funds only, and I going, oh, really? I ordered like all these army men and like 1,000 army men, and and they wouldn't ship to my house. And so I remember in 2007 when I was commuting for a long time from Vancouver. I emigrated, I got a house in Burbank, and the first thing I thought was, hey, I can order anything I want right now and it can come to my house for like $10. And I was so thrilled that I can now order anything out of a magazine and it wouldn't be a problem. And that's honestly, God bless America. It was like, oh, say, and I was like, but it was, I always believe it's like there's a great industry in Vancouver in particular. We have mutual friends that there and anime started, right?
Brad Swaley, Brian Drummond, David Sobolov hails from there. Yeah, plenty of Canadian friends come down here to be friendlier. Love it. Yeah.
No, and it's like you want to play Major League Baseball. You want to play in the major leagues, and I always thought I was commuting for 10 years, and I got an agent team in New York and L.A., and it became busier here. And then in 2007, I got cast as Optimus Prime, and I was still on an airplane every week. And I was like, okay, I got to make a decision. And Tara Strong said, what are you doing? Why are you not here? So we moved the family down and began the process.
Is she Canadian as well?
She was, yeah, she's from Toronto as well. Yeah. So, it's just... And the opportunities up there are great, but here's just one little example. I was apparently the second in line for the voice of the Tonight Show with Jay Leno, and Willie Wingert got really sick one day, and I got a call from my agent in a panic. Hey, can you get to NBC like right away? And I go, well, why? What's going on? They need you like right away. Can you? I go, well, yeah. She said, well, apparently you were like second in line, and Wally's sick, and they need somebody to do the Tonight Show. And I went, okay. And I was there in 10 minutes, and I realized that night, tonight, Jay Leno is an all-new whatever. And I was just on a cloud nine. It was like as a kid, I was a child going, oh, my God, I'm like the voice. And so that reminded me like why I'm here. Because if I'm somewhere else, that's not going to happen. Those opportunities has existed for me, and it's this country's been so great to our family, and it's been a wonderful experience. So, no, it was a best decision I ever made. So.
Cool. And you were also announcer for John Oliver's show as well.
Oh yeah, dude, the writers are back. I'm working tomorrow morning, and now, yeah, it's a crazy show. It's wild. I never thought I'd ever get close to an Emmy, so I was able to hold one. It's very heavy, and but I had to give it back. That's as close as I'm going to get. So heavy as yeah. So it's been amazing, and to meet you guys in Lodi, I got to say, I don't know if I'm a wine nerd. Okay, it's a hobby. I study it. I read about it. Geography, and this is like the history. This is a historic area of California when people came out here in the 1800s and 157 days on a horse to get here from the East Coast on a horse in the mid 1800s, and you have an industry here. It's just it's so cool. So yeah.
Second day. I would have died of dysentery on the Oregon Trail.
Yeah, no, we're not built that way anymore.
No, we're actors. We act like we're tough.
We suffer for the craft.
Kellen, how surreal is it for you to voice a video game from something that you probably played as a kid, and for you, as well, David, is you got GI Joe characters, and then you were part of the actual show, after that.
Man, there are no words. You never. The best way to go about this thing, what we do, at least in my opinion, is have no expectations and be pleasantly surprised if it goes your way. So I'm happy to get the audition, and I never thought I'd be Freddy. So it's I don't know. I'm sorry to say it's faded a little bit over time. As you nestle into it, you sort of get used to the motions. But every time somebody comes up to me and says, "You were my childhood," or you helped me get through a tough time, it reignites that spark for me a little bit.
Yeah, that's what he said is very true. I mean, exactly. It's like I'm amazed they still hire me. Amazed they actually hire me. My agent will say, "So they want to book you for so and so," and I'm like, really? Because there's a lot of pretty other good choices out there. But yeah, being grateful is one, and it's true. Like I've had numerous people today. You're my childhood. I grew up with you, and it lands. You hear that, and it lands. And don't forget, if there's no us, if there's no you, if you're not, you know what I mean? It's a two-way street. This doesn't exist without you guys, and it's really appreciated. So here.
When you guys are auditioning or doing voiceover work, have you ever had sort of a happy mistake where your voice cracks or your voice does something a little different? You're like, and the director goes, "Oh, you know what? Use that." And you're like,
"You got one?" Because I can't think of anything. Yeah.
I don't. Is there any?
I don't know. I mean, I can't think of a specific instance where a flub is. Oh, you know what? You guys know Sun and Moon, yeah? The daycare attendant. There was a line, keep the lights on. He was only supposed to say it, keep the lights on, and then one on after that. But what sometimes we'll do as voice actors is add, a few different flavors of a word or a line afterwards, just in case they want another take of it. But they're like, "Ooh, yeah, he could say it 3 times." So that's the one that comes to mind, is like on, on. Yeah, it ends on that low D or C, whatever that was. I'm tone deaf.
Yeah, I don't know if anybody played Rift Apart. The Clank, Ratchet and Clank.
I get to play the robot in Ratchet and Clank. It's me.
So it's on PC. So for little, I won't say it, but there's a swear in the recent game, and it's just because when you're directed, this is just before we were in the studio, and they give you, there's 3 lines, and the line was,
Oh dear, oh dear.
it's a big giant something, and
Oh dear.
and the third, usually you give them an A and a B take, and usually an option for a C take, and my C take was,
Oh.
and the full word, and they all laughed. I'm laughing, ha ha ha, and then ends up somebody in was Fan Expo in Denver or Dallas or something, and they say, hey, I heard you swear in the game. I go, what? They go, oh, they used it? He goes, yeah. They goes, so you just never know. Yeah. Yeah. So when people say, I wish I could hear Clank swear, well, you got your wish. Yeah.
Any questions from the audience? Right in the front.
Yeah. What was it like working with Scott Kaufman?
Great. What was it working with? What was it like working with Scott Kaufman? I talk for a living. He's really generous. It was not a lot like the other sessions we do. Because this was strictly an online affair that he and I have. I've only ever talked to him on the phone. That's the highest form of communication we've gotten to. So he sent out the audition, and I sent back in, and he's like, great, I want you. Here's a list of, not even a script, a list of lines. Just say each 5 different ways to get full coverage of the emotional spectrum. And usually ended up picking the first take anyway. So, but yeah, no, he's in that way, he's very generous with the creativity of it. He lets me try a lot of different things. He's also really generous with he listens to you guys. He, above all, he takes what you guys like and dislike as gospel, and you guys keep asking for me, so he keeps bringing me back. So keep asking for me, please.
And Kellen, talk about some advice maybe you got from some of your early mentors. I know Bob Berger would be a very big mentor for you. Some advice that he gave you, and then obviously David for you too. Some advice in the voice acting world.
Sure. Yeah. Bob was my first voice acting teacher when I was 16. The first time he led a minor in his class. I wonder if he ever did it again. But my dad's a lawyer. He's good at arguing my case. But he set me on the right track early. At that point, I was just doing, voices, which is fun on its own. But he set me on the path of creating characters, which is something really different. Because a voice is like the frosting on the cake, but you got to bake the rest, or else you're just eating frosting, which is cool. But you can't, a cake is. Nobody ever had a birthday tub of frosting that I know of. Some of the people we know might have. What about you? Yeah, maybe he's good now. That's how he carbo loads.
So the question was advice.
Advice you got from some mentors in the voice acting world.
Yeah, there's many sort of things I take from people. It's about truth. There's an old acting coach of mine. It's all about, we're all human beings, and you get up in front of the microphone. It's easy to put on a performance, to do Shakespeare. I'm a thespian, actor, but people don't really talk like that. If you watch old movies, what's his name, On the Waterfront? No, that's on the waterfront.
I'm gonna be somebody. I could have been somebody. Could have been somebody.
Yeah, Brando. he's the first person you kind of looked and went, he's doing something different. Because all those guys, you remember those movies. We get a lot of ideas from looking at old films like that. And they kind of talk like this. You know, what's the big idea? To pound you. Say, step outside. See, that's no way to treat a dame. You know, what do you? The people. That's sort of a heightened rhythm. The people talk, and he's the first one to kind of talk like this all the time. You know, he's like, well, what's this guy's interesting? He's a human being, and so someone told me, so when you're behind a microphone, you're above all a human being, even if you're a cartoony kind of
kind of a cartoony character.
like or just a regular person. I came from radio, so I had to be very careful. You know, I don't do this radio voice. You know, there's a sale at Penny's. You know, you're not doing that, and so to be as real and truthful and come from a place in your heart and not your head, it's hard to kind of put into words. And I think the older you get, the more that kind of makes sense. It's just it's all about truth. So I'll finish with saying, like, Clank is a robot, but I want you to feel when you see him in the movie, when I say, "But Ratchet, you're my friend," I want you to cry. I want you to feel, oh, you know, I want, because he's a being, and he exists, and he has emotion, and that's where you have to sort of bring things. It's hard for robots, so it's just about being truthful, I guess. You know, being a human being above all else.
Always knowing the reason why you're making a choice, not just. I mean, there are some situations where throwing it out there just because, but usually the best choices have some kind of reasoning that's in the mind and heart when they're doing it. Like, Son isn't just manic for manic's sake. I think Son is stressed from having to deal with kids all the time and clean up after their messes. I'd be like that too. I guess I'll better make the most of this job, you know?
Any final questions from the audience? Right there in the back.
It's very generic, but your favorite characters you've ever done? I know it's generic.
And it's a tough one. I feel like I've never been able to say a favorite just because I love all my babies, and going along the line of truth, you put a little bit of you into every character that you create. I will say I like characters that make me feel good about myself. Like, villains are fun, but I like ones that, you know, like Glamrock Freddy, who's become like a father figure for a lot of people for one reason or another. I'm really grateful to have lent myself to that. What about you?
I think it was Megatron from Beast Wars is the one I always liked. I always found him very Shakespearean. You know, if I do this, this will happen. But if I do that, this might happen. Ah, there's the rub. You know, I mean, he's not a bad guy. He's doing what he believes is the way. Yeah, that's and there's a bunch of different characters, but I loved playing around with him because it's all part of us. I had a friend of mine who's an actor. Said, I don't think I have a dark side. I went, you're in the wrong business. Because you got to go, you got to go there. If you're going to do, you have to go there. He goes, well, I don't think so. I go, you're a human being, Yeah. They made the commercial side. Maybe you can be that guy, but yeah.
Well, let's give a hand for Kellen and David for being here this afternoon. Go visit them over across the way there, get some autographs, get some pictures as well.
Yeah. Thank you guys so much. Yeah. Have a great rest of the day con thing.